You are lying in bed at 2 in the morning in July. The window is open. The fan is running. And you are still sweating. The air conditioner you turned off at midnight to save money is sitting silent in the window like a $400 reminder that you are going to turn it back on in 20 minutes. 4 miles down the road, there is a farmhouse built in 1911. No air conditioner in any window. No central air. No ceiling fans. I walked into that house on a July afternoon when it was 94 degrees outside. I stopped inside the door. It was 71 degrees in that room. Not cooler than outside. 71 degrees when outside was 94. No hum. No compressor. No electricity running at all. Just a pipe. $3 of clay pipe buried 4 feet in the ground. And that pipe was doing what a $2,000 air conditioning system does in every suburban house in America. I am going to show you exactly how it works. I am going to show you the entry from a 1939 agricultural cooling manual published by the Iowa State Extension Service that documented this system in over 30,000 farmhouses across the Midwest before the residential air conditioning industry quietly lobbied it out of every building code written after 1957. Not banned, just quietly written out. This is not a swamp cooler. This is not an evaporative pad or a misting system. This is $3 of clay pipe, a shovel, and the fact that the ground 4 feet below your yard has been sitting at 55 degrees Fahrenheit every day of every summer for the last 10,000 years. The first time I visited that farmhouse near Ames, Iowa, I thought there was a mechanical system I was not seeing. I walked every room. I opened every closet. I asked the man who lived there, a farmer named Walter Brandt, where the cooling system was. He pointed at the floor. He said, "The earth does it." His father had laid the pipe in 1938. It had cooled that house every summer since without a single repair, a single replacement part, or a single dollar of electricity. Walter's cooling bill for the last 30 years was zero. Every summer, zero. The American residential air conditioning industry generates over $100 billion every year. A $3 system that cools any room to within 5 degrees of the ground temperature is not something that industry has any incentive to put in front of you. That is not a coincidence. Here is what the physics actually looks like. The ground 4 feet below the surface of your yard maintains a constant temperature of between 50 and 58 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of what the air above it is doing. In winter, the ground is warmer than the air. In summer, the ground is cooler than the air. This is called the thermal mass of the earth. Think of it like this. The ground is a battery that charges slowly over thousands of years and never loses its charge. Your air conditioner fights against the summer heat by generating cold air mechanically and pumping it into your house, while the hot air fights back through every wall and window. The earth does not fight. It simply stays 55 degrees and waits. What Walter Brandt's father understood in 1938 was that you do not need to generate cold air. You just need to move existing cool air from where it already is into where you want it. I found the documentation in a 1939 Iowa State Extension Service manual titled Farmstead Summer Cooling, without mechanical refrigeration. Page 9 describes what the manual calls the earth tube system. Here is the parts list. 20 feet of unglazed clay pipe, 4 inches in diameter. Available at any agricultural supply store or online for under $3 per section. Total cost for the full run, between $3 and $8 depending on your source. 1 small intake vent for the far end of the pipe outside the house. Place it in the shadiest corner of your property. North side of the house if possible. Under a tree if one exists. That is your entire investment. Now here is the method. Dig a trench 4 feet deep from the intake point to the interior wall of the room you want to cool. 20 feet of horizontal run is enough for most single rooms. Lay the clay pipe sections end to end in the trench. Clay is critical. Not plastic. Not metal. Clay allows a small amount of moisture exchange with the surrounding soil, which drops the air temperature inside the pipe an additional 3 to 5 degrees beyond what the ground temperature alone provides. Seal the joint between the pipe and the interior wall. At the interior end, Fit a simple wooden vent cover with a mesh screen to keep insects out. Fill the trench. You are done. Hot exterior air enters the intake vent, travels 20 feet through pipes surrounded by 55-degree earth, and arrives inside your room at between 60 and 65 degrees. No electricity, no refrigerant, no moving parts. The 1939 Iowa State Manual measured the result in 30,000 Midwest farmhouses. Average interior temperature reduction of between 18 and 24 degrees on days above 90 degrees outside. Walter Brandt's house was 94 outside and 71 inside. That is 23 degrees of difference. From clay pipe and a shovel. Now here is the part most people miss, and it doubles the system without adding any cost. A second pipe at the opposite end of the same room. Not an intake, an exhaust. The second pipe runs from the upper section of the interior wall upward through the roof or out a high window. Hot air rises. When cool air enters from the floor-level intake pipe, the hot air already in the room rises and exits through the high exhaust pipe. The room breathes. Cool air in at the bottom. Hot air out at the top. Continuously. All day. All night. The 1939 manual called this the two-pipe farmhouse loop. In the 30,000 homes where it was documented, interior temperatures stayed between 68 and 72 degrees through entire Midwest summers with no mechanical input of any kind. Walter Brandt's father added the exhaust pipe in 1941. Walter told me the upstairs bedroom where his children slept stayed at 70 degrees every night of every summer for 60 years. 70 degrees. Every night. Zero electricity. Why does the average American household spend over $1,000 every summer running an air conditioning system that fights the heat instead of using the earth that already solved the problem 4 feet below the yard? Why did the Iowa State Extension Service publish a manual documenting a 23-degree cooling result in 1939 and then quietly allow that manual to vanish from public access by 1960? Why does the residential air conditioning industry spend over $3 billion in advertising every year, showing you equipment that generates cold air, never once mentioning that the ground beneath your feet has been doing it for free since before your house was built? You already know the answer. The earth tube system did not fail. It was not replaced by something better. It was quietly written out of building codes at exactly the moment that residential air conditioning became a $100 billion industry that needed customers who had forgotten they had another option. Walter Brandt's father did not forget. He laid the pipe in 1938. It is still in the ground. It still works. I do not know what brought you here today. Maybe your cooling bill this summer crossed a number you could not justify. Maybe you have a yard and a shovel and you started wondering if there was a different answer. Maybe someone in your family used to talk about how old houses stayed cool without air conditioning, and you never understood how. Maybe you are building the kind of household that does not send a check to a utility company every month just to be comfortable. It does not matter which one. $3 of clay pipe, a trench 4 feet deep, 20 feet of horizontal run, and the same 55-degree earth that has been waiting under your yard every summer of your entire life. Now you know how to use it. That is everything. Take it. See you next time. Next video, I am going to show you the single material that every farmhouse in America kept in the barn before 1940 that stops wood rot, kills mold, preserves leather, and treats rust. It costs $2. And the lumber industry quietly made sure you stopped hearing about it after 1960. See you then.